we know about her education, her school, and her education now?
When I think when she studied in the international Vietnamese school, she thinks yeah the teachers is well the teachers are well trained and some kids are friendly and, but the kids the kids what one point that the kids in the international school is brighter and richer than
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
normal kids like us. Some so she so sometimes the kids in international school is not friendly is not as friendly as uh like normal student like us.
Mm-hmm.
And when she study in public schools, she she she, she likes the environment. Yeah, because the kid is friendly and the kids are maybe is closer to her and the teachers are friendly, more friendly, is friendlier.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. Nhi, would you like to add something more?
Mm, yes, that when she studied in public school, she saw some students wearing a lot and teachers were much stricter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about the environment? Um, which one does she prefer? Like Lynn say, it was correct, like, right? She actually prefer more public school, but Missing didn't hear about the reason behind that yet. Like, of course, I heard like the environment is more friendly a little bit, or but maybe a little bit more. Any reason more that she likes to learn in public school? Here, let's listen here a bit more.
Raised in Vietnam, but have English as a primary language. That's the case with you, right? Your English, would you say, is your primary language? Yes, it is my primary language. I
Mm.
use it to speak with most people. Okay. So I'm curious, like, how did that happen? How did English become your primary language? Because as a child, my mom and dad, they both taught me English before they taught me Vietnamese. And it's also because my dad I just think that the environment is a lot better. The teachers are more strict, and the kids they feel closer to me, like because they aren't super rich and they aren't always bragging about everything, and they're just like being themselves. Did you say the teachers are more strict at Vietnamese public school? Yeah, because basically there's stricter rules and like. Yeah, you prefer that. Yep, I prefer that because when it's too carefree, they become very disobedient, and it gets very chaotic, which I don't like. Chapa, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Missing saw that she's really mentioned a lot about the environment, right? So why does she like the public school more? There are some vocabs which Missing really like from Chapa when she's just mentioned about her school. And later, we're gonna listen once more time with subtitles, okay? And Missing really would like that you can, if you can, please take notes for Missing some new vocabs. Missing will just try to make it maybe a little bit slower, so you will see. And Missing would like that later on you put for me those vocabs in your notebook because I think that's very nice that she's gonna talk about that. Also, the language is really natural. Um, yes, and she also mentioned about Um, what happened when she speak English and what happened when she speak Vietnamese? Do you remember? If you remember, what happened when she speak English or what happened when she speak Vietnamese or which or what like what kind of language she is more confident to talk to? Hmm? Linh Nhi?
She feels more comfortable when she's speaking English, and she thinks she should keep learning Vietnamese to improve her skill.
Right? Okay. Okay, so now it's actually it was really fun. Maybe at the end, huh? Let's listen here a little bit.
We'll skip that part. What do you think about
okay. Back here.
your
We skipped this part.
friends and stuff? I always have to put on a personality,
Okay, back a little bit.
like a very feel more comfortable one or the other? Yes, I feel more comfortable speaking English because it's my first language. As for Vietnamese, I think I just need to get more used to it, like just get better at the language and talk to more people. That's it. Yeah, so I always feel like there's something like a Vietnamese version of us when we speak Vietnamese and then an English version of us. Like, do you feel you have something like that? Yeah, I do. When I'm speaking Vietnamese with my friends and stuff, I always have to put on a personality, like a very gangster kid personality kind of thing. Whilst in English, I'm more mature. Why is it a gangster kid? Is it because Vietnamese like lends itself to that more easily? Yeah, specifically the local schools, they usually swear a lot and they, but it's like a normal thing, like a habit kind of. So I know like Vietnamese local kids, like they'll say stuff like they'll call each other like ông bà and stuff like that, right? Yep, ông bà, mày tao, stuff like that. Yeah. Is that the kind of slang you're talking about? Yep, and then there's also swear words, but I don't really want to say that right now. That's okay. We'll skip that part. What do you think?
Okay, so it's actually she mentioned about the things when she feels different when she's speaking English and when she's speaking Vietnamese, right? So what did she mention about? How did she feel? If you can hear this paragraph or if you can kind of like paraphrase or summarize, what did you understand? Just kind of, huh? You don't need to be so, don't need to be shy. I'm not gonna judging or anything.
Can you repeat your question?
I mean that how did she feel when she speaks English and how did she feel when she speaks Vietnamese?
I heard that she feels more comfortable when she speaks English because it is her first language. And I think sometimes she feel maybe not as like not as confident when she speaks Vietnamese. She isn't as confident as when she speaks English because uh because her Vietnamese language, her Vietnamese skill is not good enough, and she needs to improve her skills.
Nhi, would you like to add something more?
No, I don't.
No, okay. So now Miss Sin gonna open the subtitles, okay? Just take some notes, but you don't need to write very formally. You can just maybe take some really fast notes, maybe in your paper, like me here, because later on Missing will show you. We will write in our notebook later, but just something a draft for now. Okay. So we're gonna listen once more time. I'm not sure how about the subtitles actually because I didn't.
All right, so here we're with a really special person today. This is Chapa.
Hi.
So Chapa, you were
Sorry, because I didn't open the subtitles yet. So I'm not sure if they have very correct one because some they don't have. So let's see. Here they just have like actually auto. So let's see auto generated. Let's see if it's correct. Otherwise, I'm gonna help you.
born in Vietnam. You used to attend international school,
Okay.
right?
So missing half the enjoy here. Missing will just turn off. Huh? Okay.
How many years?
Around 3 to 4 years.
Okay. And then now you've transferred over to public school. And how long has it been since you've been doing public school?
Around 5 years now.
And Chapa, where are your parents from?
They're both from Vietnam, but my dad was had to go to Singapore when he was younger because of the aftermath of the Vietnam War. So he's technically a VQ person.
So I'm curious, what's been the hardest part of Vietnamese public school?
The Vietnamese.
So what do you mean, like the school subjects, the academic part?
Yeah, the academic part because they usually tell you to learn everything in Vietnamese and memorize everything in Vietnamese, and unfortunately, Vietnamese is my second language.
So you're talking about like everything, math, literature, history, it's all in Vietnamese, so it's like extra hard for you.
Yep, even sometimes the English is in Vietnamese.
The English classes have Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Okay, so are the kids different? International school compared to Vietnamese public school?
Yes, they are very, very different compared to each other. The kids in the international school, they usually brag a lot more, and they're rich kids. So they would make fun of you if you were poor or if you didn't have a like steady financial state. So and they're basically like little rich kids trapped in a bubble, so they don't really know how to fend for themselves and stuff like that.
These are things that you've seen or experienced?
Yes, I used to experience it because like when I was younger, I used to be bullied a lot in the international school. Back then, I was very weak, so I didn't know how to fend for myself, but now I do.
At this point, which do you prefer? Do you prefer international school or do you prefer Vietnamese public school?
I personally prefer the Vietnamese public school.
Why?
I just think that the environment is a lot better. The teachers are more strict, and the kids they feel closer to me, like because they aren't super rich and they aren't always bragging about everything, and they're just like being themselves.
Did you say the teachers are more strict at Vietnamese public school?
Yep. Because basically there's stricter rules and like.
Yeah, you prefer that.
Yep, I prefer that because when it's too carefree, they become very disobedient, and it gets very chaotic, which I don't like.
Chapa, I think it's really interesting because I don't meet a whole lot of people who are born here in Vietnam and born and raised in Vietnam, but have English as a primary language. That's the case with you, right? Your English, would you say, is your primary language?
Yes, it is my primary language. I use it to speak with most people.
Okay. So I'm curious, like, how did that happen? How did English become your primary language?
Because as a child, my mom and dad, they both taught me English before they taught me Vietnamese. And it's also because my dad, he's not very good at Vietnamese either. So he just taught me what he knew, which was English.
Because your dad is Vietnamese ethnically, but he's from overseas, right? He lived overseas and he's here working in Vietnam, but English is also his primary language.
Yep, that's true.
And your parents, do they speak English with each other or Vietnamese with each other?
They usually speak English with each other.
Does it ever get challenging for you here? Like, because English is your primary language, does it get weird or uncomfortable at all in your day to day here in Vietnam?
Not exactly too uncomfortable, but it's just that I don't really have the vocabulary to talk normally with people without feeling like as if there's like a barrier, a language barrier to be specific.
So occasionally you have things that you want to say or express, but it's really hard to do it because you don't have the vocabulary.
Yep.
Do you think it gets in the way of you like having friendships or relationships with people or anything like that?
I guess so, yeah, because in the local school, I actually realized that I stopped talking to people as much before, and I usually just stayed with myself. I just stayed alone and stuff like that because I couldn't talk to the others.
How do you feel when you speak Vietnamese versus English? Like, do you feel more comfortable one or the other?
Yes, I feel more comfortable speaking English because it's my first language. As for Vietnamese, I think I just need to get more used to it, like just get better at the language and talk to more people. That's it.
Yeah, so I always feel like there's something like a Vietnamese version of us when we speak Vietnamese and then an English version of us. Like, do you feel you have something like that?
Yeah, I do. When I'm speaking Vietnamese with my friends and stuff, I always have to put on a personality, like a very gangster kid personality kind of thing. Whilst in English, I'm more mature.
Why is it a gangster kid? Is it because Vietnamese like lends itself to that more easily?
Yeah, specifically the local schools, they usually swear a lot and they, but it's like a normal thing, like a habit kind of.
So I know like Vietnamese local kids, like they'll say stuff like they'll call each other like ông bà and stuff like that, right?
Yep, ông bà, mày tao, stuff like that.
Yeah. Is that the kind of slang you're talking about?
Yep, and then there's also swear words, but I don't really want to say that right now.
That's okay. We'll skip that part. What do you think about your, I guess, future with Vietnamese? Like, do you plan on getting more comfortable with it, or like, or is this something that what? I'm just gonna double down on English. I think my Vietnamese is good enough. How do you feel about your progress with Vietnamese, and do you want to keep learning it?
I feel like I should keep learning it just to keep contact with my family and like just to be able to learn more. Like because in high school I still plan to be here, and I still plan to come back to Vietnam after I graduate or after I get out of university and stuff like that.
Okay. So you're planning to maybe study abroad, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Anywhere you want to go in particular?
Not really, not yet, but maybe somewhere in California because that's one of the most famous ones. But I don't really know yet.
But you definitely feel like your future is here. Like you're gonna come back here and plant your roots here.
Yeah, because it's my home. I don't really want to go anywhere else.
Thank you, Chapa.
Hey, no problem.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So as you can see, can Miss In ask you that the first time you watch already with me together, right? And the second time you watch with subtitle. So how much do you understand compared to the first time and the second time? Like the first time without subtitles and the second time with subtitles. So how many percentage do you think, Nhi, the first time?
I think the second time I it more clearly.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's more carefully, right? But the second time, like how, like the first time, how much do you understand? And the second time, how much, sorry, how many do you, how many percentage do you understand, Yi?
At first time I understand like 50,
Mm-hmm.
50
50%, yeah.
percent. Second times I understand 70%.
70%. Okay. Yeah. How about you, Lynn? Tell me, Stin.
Our first time I understand about 50 to 60%.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And in the second time I can understand about 75 to 85%.
Okay, to 85%, right? Okay, so now our solution is that Missing is the person who's gonna help you to understand kind of like, I don't want to say completely because I mean we don't really need to understand completely actually because step by step one day you will see. I'm sure one day, like maybe 2 years later, 2 or 3 years later, you're gonna watch this video again. You will see it's just kind of like so easy for you. Um, or it just like at this time you just open the video without even watching Chapa, but you understood totally. Huh? So that's not gonna a big deal, and we don't push ourselves to understand completely actually, but I'm gonna help you because we have really, for Mistin, we have really some nice phrases as your age, Japa. So that's why Mistin would like to um, actually talk a little bit about that. So here, just a moment, huh? So can you just, sorry, where I can find the thing? Just a moment. Miss Tin have, okay, short transcript. Miss Tin have one tip that now I'm just opening the transcript here, and we're gonna learn by the transcript. So can you just open for Miss Tin maybe your vocabulary notebook? Huh? So we're gonna write it down. You can use maybe a new notebook for Miss Tin, or maybe you can use your notebook, or I'm not sure about that, but for sure in the future we're gonna, because our goal is that we're trying to boost our vocabs, so that's why we have to work a lot on that. So I'm gonna open one file and we're gonna write down here. Okay, I'm gonna open a new one because it's new class today.